The movie opens with Emile and his father Francois, and their dog stuck in a traffic jam. Emile's feeding his dog despite his dad telling him not to. They're also arguing because Emile would rather be hanging out with his friends playing games instead of being with his dad. Their delay is due to Emile's reluctance. Eventually, Emile grows weary of his father's reprimands and exits the car, prompting Francois to follow him. Suddenly, they notice an ambulance, violently shaking with something shrieking inside before the windows shatter. Francois quickly pulls Emile into a hiding spot as the ambulance doors burst open, revealing a half-bird, half-man creature that lands on a car. Security officers scramble to regain control of the mutant, but it fights them off and flees into the nearby building. Later, Emile and Francois visit the hospital where Emile's mother, Lana, who's turning into an animal, is being treated. Over the past 2 years, a wave of people from across the nation have begun to transform into more beast-like forms, often resulting in violence. Authorities are doing their best to contain them in specified facilities where they're sedated and studied in hopes of finding a cure. The general public fears these mutants and prefers them confined. Emile is hesitant to see his mother after she accidentally scratches him, but Francois maintains that she remains family. With the doctor's suggestion that they move to the south, a few weeks later, Emile, Francois, and their dog settle into the new forest-adjacent home. Emile begins school where he attracts the curiosity of a classmate, Nina, upon introduction. Emile falsely claims his mother is deceased and attributes his scar to a lightning strike. A severe storm later hits the town, causing a power surge. Emile's awakened by the storm and spots a creature peering into the house, which disappears once Francois restores the power. The following day, an emergency call leads them to a local lake, where an ambulance has crashed due to the storm. The ambulance was transporting mutants to a new facility, and now half of them are dead, and others have escaped. Francois panics upon seeing a creature's body be retrieved, fearing for his wife Lana. However, Officer Julia reassures him that Lana's body hasn't been found, suggesting she might be in the forest. Upon returning home, Francois hangs clothes on the trees around their house, hoping Lana will be drawn by the scent. The following day, during a tug-of-war game in gym class, Emile's team falls except for him. He manages to hold on long enough for his team to recover and win the game. Emile's strength impresses everyone, leading to an invitation to a party. However, Emile rushes home and painfully pulls something out of his fingernails. Francois encounters Julia while checking the mail. She informs him that the search has been called off as the military is expected to take over. Suddenly, screams erupt as a mutant is spotted. Julia instructs her team to evacuate the mall while Francois searches for the mutant, hoping it's Lana. The creature, a squid mutant, is merely looking for fish to eat. Upon being discovered, she hurls a box of shrimp and flees, tossing food at Julia, who pursues her. Despite this, Julia manages to apprehend her. Francois discovers another frightened mutant hiding under a grocery display, but chooses not to inform the police. Emile attends a party the following Friday where he enjoys himself and his classmates show interest in swords brought by a presenter for the upcoming Midsummer Festival. However, Emile starts feeling unwell due to the alcohol and falls from his seat. When Nina offers him medicine, he instantly licks her hand to take it, startling everyone. Feeling humiliated, Emile flees to the forest, hearing the sounds of other mutants. The next morning, Emile wakes up near a lake to the sound of a passing motorboat. He discovers blood in his mouth, which he quickly spits out. On his way home, he encounters anti-mutant graffiti. Emile rushes to the bathroom at home and vomits a feather, leading him to realize he consumed a bird the previous night. Ignoring the police barriers, Emile and Francois venture into the forest in search of Lana. Emile inquires about Francois's feelings when Lana began to transform, to which Francois responds that he was never afraid, as she remained his wife, albeit slightly altered. As night falls, they continue their search from the car, calling out and playing Lana's favorite song. They spend the night in the car, and by morning, Emile notices more changes in his nails. Emile's dog suddenly runs off, leading him to a chameleon child in a tree. Suddenly, the earlier Birdman attacks Emile, scratching his shoulder. The Birdman stops when he recognizes Emile as a mutant. Emile's cries attract Francois, who steps in and convinces the Birdman to back off. In the car, they decide not to go to the hospital. Instead, an army nurse stitches up Emile's wound, believing the story that a dog caused it. At home, Emile takes out some stitches and licks the wound. During a later lab class, he notices Nina's necklace has a feather similar to the one he vomited, causing him distress. However, Nina confronts him about it. He becomes distracted by the noise from the ferrets in their cage and eventually loses his temper, shouting at them to be quiet. Post-class, Emile struggles to ride his bike due to his physical changes, but Nina remains supportive, even inviting him to her house. While making a snack, Emil discovers a dead bird in the fridge. Nina explains she found it at her doorstep after the party and used its feather for her necklace. Emil realizes he didn't consume the bird. He left it for her as a present. Nina plans to donate the bird as food for the mutants. Emil catches a fish barehanded at the lake, an act witnessed by a neighbor. He then encounters the Birdman, who's struggling to fly and repeatedly falls. Emil leaves the fish for him and learns that he goes by the name Fix, having forgotten his real name. Observing Fix's injuries from his unsuccessful attempts to fly, Emil suggests a safer location to practice and leads Fix to the lake. After clearing the water of branches to prevent further injuries, Fix consents to practice there. In the evening, Emil struggles to ride his bike home and keeps falling. He decides to abandon it in the forest and tells his father that it was stolen. Meanwhile, Francois discovers anti-mutant t-shirts at the bar where he works, which greatly disturbs him. While taking out the trash, Francois is startled by noises in the backyard and is suddenly attacked by a mutant. He notices the creature is chained and attempts to pacify it, only to see another mutant flee. A co-worker intervenes, pushing the creature back with an oar and revealing that the mutant is her relative whom she's been hiding at work. They attempt to guide the creature back into hiding, but it panics and rushes the bar's front, causing mass panic. Suspecting the other creature might be Lana, Francois rushes to the forest and encounters his wife, now fully transformed into a bear. She makes a noise at him before departing. Later at school during lunch, Emil feels something in his mouth and unexpectedly spits out a tooth. To avoid alarming others, he pretends it was a baby tooth. In the afternoon, Emil visits Fix, who repeatedly falls into the water while attempting to fly. During a break, Emil examines Fix's injuries and removes his face bandage, revealing a poorly performed surgery to remove a growing beak. In the morning, Julia accompanies Francois to the forest to search for Lana, hiding whenever a police car passes. Francois and Emil don't find any creatures, but Francois is surprised to find Emil's bike. At home, Francois unclogs the sink and discovers hair and claws, realizing Emil is transforming. When Emil comes home, Francois confronts him with the evidence, but Emil denies it. Francois locks the house, refusing Emil entry until he confesses, causing Emil to try to escape. In desperation, Francois chases and tackles Emil, holding him close as Emil breaks down. The next morning, Emil eats without utensils, and Francois supports him. He gives Emil Lana's medication to control his impulses at school and checks Emil's mouth, confirming his fangs are still hidden. Francois advises Emil to cut his nails daily and use cotton and hair to dampen his echoed hearing. He also teaches Emil to use hair removal cream. Later, while outside, Emil talks to Nina on the phone. He asks her to scream and is thrilled to hear her from afar. Emil visits his friend Fix, who had lost his ability to speak and can only make bird-like sounds. After a warm hug from Emil, Fix ascends a tree and takes a leap, revealing his newfound ability to fly, which he thoroughly enjoys. Emil then attends a festival where his father, Francois, is working. Francois is angry at Emil's presence as he should be hiding, leading to a heated argument that turns physical. In the heat of the moment, Emil bites his father's shoulder, only realizing his grip when threatened with scissors. Distraught, Emil leaves and encounters Nina, who invites him for a walk in the cornfield. Their walk turns romantic, leading to an intimate moment. When Emil undresses, Nina notices his hairy back and altered spine, but continues regardless, claiming she was aware of it. Emil and his friend return to the festival, where Emil is confronted in the restroom by a classmate who had seen him with Nina. The classmate uses a device that emits a high-frequency sound, causing Emil discomfort. In fear, Emil fights back, scratching the boy's face. He then escapes to a field as the boy alerts the locals, who arm themselves and call the police. A dog finds Emil, but he scares it away with a bark. Seeing the dog run, two men fire their guns, setting off an alarm. Emil runs from the crowd, and just as a man's about to shoot him, Fix intervenes, knocking the man down and fatally injuring him. Fix then guides Emil into the forest. A police car joins the chase, and Emil crosses a lake to evade them. However, the pursuers fire across the lake, hitting Fix. Emil rushes to him, mourning his friend as he dies in his arms. Later, Francois and the hunters find Fix's body, but Emil is gone. In the town, a large mutant remains hidden as military trucks head towards the forest. The next day, Emil stays hidden in the forest, living off fruit. By evening, he climbs a tree and adds his howl to the sounds of the night creatures. On a stormy night, Emil finds refuge in a cave and encounters a bear, whom he recognizes as his mother, Lana. They share a touching moment before Lana leaves, signaling Emil to follow. Emil stumbles upon a peaceful mutant community, including a chameleon girl. However, their location is discovered by the army, signaled by flares in the sky. The mutants try to escape, but a sound device used by the soldiers incapacitates them, leading to their capture. The chameleon girl manages to escape using her camouflage. At the police station, Francois helps Emil by claiming he was lost in the forest while drunk. Emil has difficulty signing the release papers due to his inability to hold the pen properly. When Emil growls at the officer, Francois intervenes, causing the officer to faint. Francois then fills out the document himself and leaves with Emil. They drive out of town in a car but are pursued by the police. Despite this, Francois reassures Emil that he won't be institutionalized and drives into the forest. He instructs Emil to run, and Emil does so, howling with joy. And with that, the movie ends.